Hey, welcome to Ep.1 of the Ian Brou Podcast. I may, at some later time, give it a different name. The Brou Haha, that would work, seeing that's how my last name's Brou. But that's got branding and all that kind of stuff, and I don't know that I'm really all that interested in trying to do any branding. But anyway, we're going to start a podcast, and you're welcome to come along for the ride. Right now, I probably will only be I will be the lone person who is listening to it. At the same time, maybe a few others may jump in as well. Just kind of out at the outset, want to introduce myself, tell you a little bit about who I am. I am, first and foremost, I am a husband and a father. I've got 4 kids, fantastic young women. They range in age from 13, almost 14, just in a couple of weeks, all the way up to 20. My oldest just got married last year. She, fantastic young lady, lives up in Wisconsin. And then I have 2 others, 19, twins, who are at college in a few different places. And so we've got all kinds of exciting things going on. I'm a mission worker, so I worked for about 8 years over in Europe, primarily in Spain, doing mission work, living full time there, working with local churches, pastors, and things like that to help them be more effective at reaching their own local population. We helped with church planting strategies. Mobilization, things like that. I currently am doing some of the same kind of stuff, albeit from this side of the pond over here in Texas. And we do mobilization and those kinds of things, help get resources and support to workers over in Europe, primarily focusing on the developed world. We may expand to beyond Europe in the future, but as of right now, we're focused just in Europe. I'm also a pastor. About 6 months ago, with a few families, we launched a new church here in the Houston area, and so I'm involved in active ministry, preaching ministry on a weekly basis here in Houston, and so I'm with some regularity interacting with all kinds of different people about spiritual things like that. And then, when you're doing that kind of work, well, then you find yourself as a tent maker as well. So I kind of have a side hustle that's helping pay the bills while we work all of these different things. And so it's been interesting kind of having my feet in a few different places, whether in ministry on the one hand, in the workplace in the other hand, traveling internationally to support work over there. There's a lot of different things going on. So that's, in a nutshell, who I am. And so I guess that brings us to the question, well, why am I doing this? Why do I want to start a podcast? Well, first of all, I have a whole lot of interests. I'm a generalist. I like to know a little bit about everything. There's a few things that I may know a lot about, but I like to know a little bit about of everything. And then beyond that, as I start to learn more and more about lots of different things, I begin having questions and then often concerns about how those things affect the world that we live in. And so I want to make sure that I'm interacting with things in a way that really takes into account how all the different things in the world are affecting, one, how I live my faith out in the world, how my children and everybody live with those things happening in the world. And so that's really sets the stage for what it is that I want to do. I have lots of thoughts on the issues of the day. I want to get those ideas out. I feel like over the last several years, I've been on the right side of a number of issues, but I was not doing anything where I was publishing that, and so I don't have any track record of that actually being the case. I don't have, I have the confidence that my wife knows that I held that idea or that belief really early on. and even was saying to people around me, hey, I'm not sure that this is the way we want to be thinking about things. And so anyway, so I just want to look, I'm talking about these things all the time. I have people in my life who ask me, what do I think about things? And so I often am able to give some information, some feedback on that. And so being able then to get that out there to maybe a little bit wider audience seems like a good idea. Again, on the why am I doing this? I told you before that I have 4 daughters, and so those 4 daughters are super important. I've had the opportunity to watch them grow from little kids all the way up to young adults. And so now they are stepping into their places in society, looking to make a difference in all of those things. But sometimes I feel a little bit guilty about the world that I'm handing over to them, as if I or those with me haven't done enough to make sure that it's a better world than the one that we got. And so I suppose that I don't want it to be the case that one day in the future, my kids look back at the situation that they're living in, and they wonder, well, why didn't you do more to fight for us, to stop this thing happening, or to speak up for the way we should be acting, or the behaviors we should be engaging in. And so I have this real strong sense of responsibility for doing that for my kids' generation, and really, like so many parents, I want them to be able to look at me fondly, proudly, and say, that's somebody who stood up not only for what he believed in, but also for us. He was actually doing things to make sure that the world that we got and the world that we were growing into and then becoming contributing parts of, that he had done everything he could to make sure it was the right kind of world. What I failed to mention in my introduction is that I'm also a pet owner. And so right here off screen, I have a dog who decided that it wanted to whine at me. And so if you periodically hear some whining in the background, that's the dog. I will say that additionally, on the why am I doing this, I guess I look around, I spend time listening to podcasts, and I read news, and I listen to new media stuff, all those kinds of different things. And I just found that what resonates is sincerity and authenticity. And so many people who are doing stuff, I don't know, I wonder about their sincerity or authenticity. Are they doing this to make a buck? So yeah, I don't know. I'd like to be able to do something that can communicate a position or an idea of sincerity and authenticity, and that as a result can actually make a difference for the people who are listening or participating in whatever conversation I'm engaged in. And so anyway, and then beyond that, I'd like to obviously have opportunity to further develop my communication skills. I preach on a weekly basis, and so that's something that's important, but I don't spend a lot of time dialoguing like this in front of people, and so this gives me an opportunity to hone some of those skills, work through how exactly to say some of those things. So there's really a part where it benefits me just having an opportunity to speak in front of people, even if it's through some sort of a digital medium as we do that. And so I guess, again, just kind of setting it up before we start, my setup is just about as bare bones as it possibly can be. I happen to have a tripod, so we can put the phone up on the tripod, and I have an old iPhone, so I'm videoing on an old iPhone. I have a little microphone that I use for recording my sermons, but really it's nothing special about that. No production, no nothing. Just basically I'll record it, I'll do a quick edit, and then I'll put it up. And so maybe one day we'll step it up, but it's going to be pretty bare bones. And so in that sense, my apologies for the quality. If you're hoping or wanting something more, we're just not there right now. So anyway, that gives you an idea of kind of where we are and what we're doing. So I guess the question then is what will we deal with? What am I going to be dealing with? And so I really want to touch on topics that are kind of at that intersection of faith, culture, and politics. I'm especially interested in what we should say and do as Christians interacting in this world. So, for example, over the last several weeks at our church, I've been preaching through the minor prophets. And so over the last 2 weeks, it's been specifically in the book of Habakkuk. And one of the interesting things in that book is the parallels in the observations of the evil and the injustice that is happening in Habakkuk's world, and the parallels with our own world. The fact that we can see all of those same sorts of injustices being perpetrated throughout the world, on the international scene, on within our own country, within our churches, in our interpersonal relationships, inside of families and workplaces. We see all kinds of different evils and injustices. And I think that a lot of Christians find themselves trying to work through, all right, well, how do I, one, think about this thing? How do I respond in a way that's responsible? And then how do I go about living a Christian life in light of the different things that are happening in the world around me? And so I would like to be able to speak into that a little bit, talk a little bit about my perspective, which my hope is that I'm able to draw ideas and concepts from Scripture to give us guidance so that we have essentially the toolkit we need to be able to interact in a world that is really just seems to be going absolutely crazy at times. And so that's really the kinds of things that we want to do. As a pastor, I'm especially concerned with biblical and godly responses to things that are going on in the world. I want to help people think clearly and critically about whatever the issues of the day are, and really, I want to share how to understand those better from an informed Christian position, not so much a political persuasion position, whether I'm on the left or I'm on the right kind of a position, but really trying to think about it critically from a Christian perspective, and how do I live out my faith in a way that makes sense of the issues that we face in the world. I want to explore and help people understand how what they believe theologically informs the way they should be acting in the world. I think one of the things that's really interesting is when you hear people pray. I'm around people who pray with some regularity, but it's interesting because the words that they use to pray, or the way that they pray, or the assumptions they make when they pray are often different than the views that they say that they hold theologically. And so it's a really interesting kind of a thing. Their prayers don't coincide with their understanding of God's sovereignty or human free will and all of those kinds of things. So I'd like to be able to help maybe shine a light on that, make sure that the way that we pray and think and act is consistent through, as we interact with the world, as we seek to make a difference in the world, whatever that might be. Furthermore, I'm really, really frustrated with our world in so much as there just seems to be lots and lots of exploitation in all different senses. There's economic exploitation. There's moral exploitation. There's just all kinds of things where bad actors are taking advantage of others that are in positions where they either can't fight back or they willingly participate in their own exploitation. I would really like to speak out against those instances of exploitation that we have in our world. I think that there are a lot of those in the financial world for sure. I think that given an opportunity, we talk. Given an opportunity, bad actors will do whatever they can to exploit whomever, and often those are amongst the more vulnerable in our society. Certainly, those with less means have a tendency to be exploited in that way. They're lent money in order just to live at exorbitant interest, and I find it disgusting. Again, I'm a regular guy, so regular middle class guy, live in a regular middle class neighborhood, and I see that even now amongst people in that middle class, there's just a whole lot of exploitation in that financial sense. On the moral side of things, I think especially with sexual ethics and really like the pornography industry, I think that is an absolutely disgusting thing, and I cannot understand why we allow that business to exploit people. It's obviously has a negative effect on the minds of the people who are consuming it, and that seems obvious without even having to look at it at any kinds of studies or anything related to that. But that seems obvious. But even the people who are participating in it, even if they're being compensated in some way for selling whatever it is that they're doing, it seems to me that it's obviously exploitative, and somebody else is using that to make money, to get rich off of the selling of women, especially, but men and women who are engaging in that kind of stuff. And again, it's poison. And so again, those are examples of the kinds of exploitation that I see all around the world, and I get really, really frustrated. You don't have to look at child trafficking or something in the undeveloped world to see clear instances of that kind of exploitation. It's happening all over the place, and again, right in our own communities. And so I feel like I'd like to take a stab at that. Let's talk about those things and let's call it out when those exploitative practices are clearly sinful. Let's identify them as such and call them out, whether they're things that your particular political party supports or not. Exploitation is exploitation, and I think we need to stand up and say something against it. Obviously, there'll be all kinds of different things that I'd like to talk about. I guess really at heart in so many of these things is the fact that I'm tired of being lied to. I think back to the COVID stuff is really when I would say my eyes were opened to how much we were being lied to. Throughout my life, I've always been pretty skeptical of anything that comes my way. I've never been a conspiracy theorist per se, but I've always been skeptical of people's motives or desires in the different things and the decisions that they're making. And my thought has been that I don't always think that there's some grand conspiracy out to get me, but if somebody was given the opportunity to exploit me or to take something from me or from anybody else for their own gain, those bad actors are going to do it. And so I've always had a tendency that way. But then the whole COVID thing really, really had a negative effect on my family, and all the while from the very first days, it just. Again, this is one of those things where I don't have any particular record of having said said things. I do wish that there had been a sense of me publishing it, but I do know that the people who were closest to me know that from early on I was saying this doesn't make sense. And the day before our shutdown, we were in Spain at the time. The day before the shutdown, I said to my wife and a few other people who we were walking along the boardwalk in the city that we lived in. And I said, well, one day we're going to look back at this as the greatest overreaction in the history of the world. And interestingly enough, these several years later, that's been the case. But the ill effects for my ministry work, for my kids especially, as it related to all the stuff with COVID, really got me fired up. And so I know that we're quite a ways removed from that, but that has really shaped my newfound lack of trust in so many things. I'm tired of being lied to. And so I am one of those who has always been a direct communicator. I like to speak clearly, tactfully, but clearly to people. I want to share with them true things, do that in love. The Bible certainly teaches that we're to communicate the truth in love. Ephesians, not least, focusing on that idea. And so I want to be about that, but I'm tired of being lied to. And when I see those obvious points where we are being lied to, I'm going to speak up and try to speak the truth in love about those things. And so that's really kind of sets the groundwork for what we're going to be doing, what we'll be discussing in the coming episodes. And so I think I'm going to try to do maybe once or twice a week as time permits. I don't always have tons of time to be able to do stuff, but I'm going to try to jump in here, and I'll introduce some of the different ideas of things that I'm preaching on as well. And I find that as you study and prepare to preach, you're interacting with all kinds of different things that really begin to help inform what you're thinking about the issues of the day. So again, that's kind of where I'm going to come from on that. Just a little bit more about my background. I would say that politically I'd be on the more conservative side. Interestingly enough, I've never been much of a Republican voter. I've always looked for third parties, just because I thought that the Republicans were corrupt. I thought that in many of the cases, the stands that the Democrats held were immoral, not least abortion. Some of the things with sexual ethics as well. I just think that they're disgusting and abhorrent, and I cannot possibly support those things. But there's certainly some places on the Republican side where, even as they say that they're against things like abortion or against some things on the sexual ethics side, they still seem to give green lights to some of their donors or donors in their particular industries to be able to engage in exploitative practices. So that's always really frustrated me. I've dabbled a little bit with the libertarian kinds of things, but sometimes that's all nonsensical as well. So anyway, I would say that I'm conservative in so much as I want to maintain, I don't know that I want to maintain. I'd like to see Christian values lived out in our world. I do believe that among the things that our country was founded on were a lot of those Christian values, and that those are important for having a functioning society, and one that actually moves into the future in a way that actually is better for its people and its citizens. And so so that's a little bit about my background. That's who I am, where I come from, and in the coming episodes we'll dive into different things that I'm interacting with. I look forward to growing over time in my ability, my comfort in doing this, and it's going to be a fun ride. So stay tuned. We'll make something happen. I guess I don't know exactly. I hadn't thought about how to sign off. So, all right. See you later.